Hello and welcome to Green Horizon, a new frontier. In this special edition, we will look at a series of projects identified and funded by the Environmental Investment Fund through their Empower to Adapt program. The program is aimed at creating climate change resilient livelihoods through community-based natural resource management in Namibia. These projects are made possible by the Environmental Investment Fund in partnership with the Green Climate Fund. Water is life. All living organisms need water to survive. In this episode, we will look at the tremendous effort by the Environmental Investment Fund to try and make water accessible to communities in the Oshikoto and Omusati regions. We start with the Oshikoto regions at Omahia village in the Oshampula community forest. Life here is still life like in the olden days, whereas many residents still come from their homestead to fetch water from these wells. With plenty of underground water here, literally every homestead has its own well that serve as their water source. This is a crank system operated by two people using a lever with a rope attached that brings the water from a shallow well. While humans as well as animals drink this water, there are disadvantages in the sense that it's open and creatures and insects as well as other small animals can fall into it. Jason Nepililo of the Oshampula Community Forest explains why they still fetch water from these wells despite modern interventions.
Onkaro etu njino pakuiganjero njokono na otwatulapo mlandu moshitopolwa muno kutya itatuvulu tudhipagepo iikweyo yetu mbino yomuthigululwakalo gwetu. Omeya ngano atweetelwa kululala ohaga kadhika komaupyakadhi opaipi tadhi topanga ngashi tuli ngele tuli mokati kuupyakadhi monena okutameka oshikashe shino uchiiki yali yapiti paifo opo tuli mpa omikunda ndiwete kutya odhaadha 5 hadi okunwa mpa. Omwaadha aantu yazipo nokuli yalipo yuudhapo ondumba niimuna mpano. Otayile omeya gawo gokunwa, otayile omeya gawo gokukalongitha ngaa iimuna tiinu, shaashi otenga dhetu opo dhili shili ndeka dhinasha omeya. Omeya ogapwapo. Onkene otwati mitopolwa yetu mbino twemba tunapo iikweyo mbino no mitopolwa imwe tuna natango inima yimwe ithano matope. Omoili natango ponga gelipo pepi natango mpano oteikwatelapo uno omeya ngano galula litagea itatukase no tunene na twadhike nga tatu nande gena ngupyakadhi hatukatulamo ngumuti hatuinyanganyangele ngumuti tatutulamo etagadhi ndoka nawa tatuvulu kugalongitha osho twakalekapo inima yetu mbino itatidhipagapo.
Nepililo, however, points out the health hazard that these wells pose to the villages.
Ya ai onkaro nguno hatulongitha pakwetapo omeya getu mitopolwa yetu mbino yokomikandi hatuwetapo nuudhigu okufulapo iilambo mbi hatuifulupo nuudhigu lela ya hatufulupo kwetapo opo tumone omeya moshitopolwa shetu monkambadhala ukwana nkene ya upyakadhi nengi kambo auke twaadha pamwemo hatumono ngo omeya getu ngana tugamono shitatuganunga ngashi gatyangeika nde omeya ohaga kala ngaa gena omaupyakadhi ogendji kehe shimwe tashiinyenge tashiyangamo munga tashikagula momeya getu go nga tatulongitha mpa ogetu kutha kakohi mara ogetu etele ngupyakadhi.
The plight of these communities has prompted the Environmental Investment Fund to uplift the communities by excavating the Okadila Earth Dam, which is fenced off to provide water to livestock. It also provides an opportunity for these villages to access water for their horticultural produce. Supporting entity Cosmos Shilongo, who is representing Toto's environmental consultant, says that it was not an easy task, but the support from the community was exemplary.
To start with, I think it was not an easy task to do, to assist this community preparing the project from the project preparation stage up to the stage where it is now. So we have assisted the CBO, so the community-based organization, to develop the project, and we are also assisting with the management of the project, the coordination, as well as the implementation part of it. It's quite important. The community is very happy. They welcome the idea very greatly, and they are also working closely together with us to make this happen. It's quite important to mention that the community has also contributed greatly towards the fencing of the earth dam, just to make sure the safety and security, as it was alluded to by the chairperson, that the fence is quite very important to prevent kids and livestock from entering into the earth dams. Number one challenge is to excavate the dam of this magnitude, one has to get earth moving equipment down to the site, all the way from Ondangwa, and you need a 4x4 robot, a truck, to carry the machineries, and it's quite a very sandy road, so it took us a week just to get the excavators and the tipper trucks down here. That's one of the challenges, but we managed to get them down and excavate. The whole process went in very smoothly. The excavation process went in smoothly. That was last year, but we started just before the rainfall season. That's in November last year. But we managed to finish the first earth dam. Now, as you can see, we have not really completed the whole process. You see there's a water storage facility and the solar system on the other side that are not yet connected. The challenge that came with that is the whole story of COVID-19 and its subsequent lockdowns really hampered this process, but we are quite happy that these lockdowns events will possibly be relaxed, and then you can get the team to the site again. As you can see, the whole earth dam is fenced off with this type of fences, type of wires. The idea is to prevent or limit movements of livestock, movement of people into the earth dams, to prevent accidents, drowning, and so forth. So what has happened is that we have now installed the water storage facility. That's a water tank standing there. That's about 5,000 liters. And you also see a solar panel installed. That is basically for the purpose of water pumping. What is going to happen in the next phase is that to install the solar powered water reticulation system, the water pump will be installed in the dam, and it will pump water directly to the tank. From the tank, it will now be taken to the taps and animal drinking troughs and so forth.
The water will be drawn from the dam using a solar pump, but why solar?
Basically, that purpose is to the introduction of this solar-powered water system is to number one is to reduce the emission of carbon dioxide. Imagine if you have to bring in a diesel water pump, you have to emit carbon dioxide and other dangerous gases into the atmosphere. That's what we have to limit. That's why we came up with these carbon-free water pumping systems.
Monica Amutenya from the Directorate of Forestry welcomes the excavated earth dam, saying that it will give the community more options and reduce dependency from the Oshampula community forest.
Yeah, first of all, the mandate of DOF is to promote sustainable and the participatory management of forest resources. Now with the project, which is earth dam upgrading, the community will have more water, and then they will also have more options when it comes to their livelihoods. They can do aquaculture, they can do horticulture, they can do brick making project, and then in the process, they will also reduce their dependency in the woodland. Because when options are less, the community are are forced to go in the forest to cut the trees, to sell poles and firewood and make a living. Because we all need to put food on the table. Then we need to pay school fees for our kids and so forth. But then with this project, I think the livelihood options are more diversified in the process. The challenge is that we try by our level best to educate the community to conserve the forest for the next generation. But it comes with problems because with the level of poverty in the community, people need to make a living. So it's always a problem. But with the establishment of the community forest, where the community are empowered, they are given a responsibility to manage their own resources, it's much easier compared to areas where there is no community forest, because they are more organized and they have the responsibility to conserve the forest.
Amutenya calls on the surrounding communities to plant more trees.
The message to the community is just that for the community, especially the ones of the community forest, to continue managing their forest so that it can also be used by the next generation. And I also want them to make use of this to make use of this opportunity that they have water, so that they will be able to plant trees, especially the fruit trees, just for them to supplement what they get from the crop fields.
The terrain here are sandy, and only a 4x4 vehicle can maneuver this environment easily. 20 kilometers away at Ohapi village, the borehole drilled by the community has salty water, and the people and the animals share water from this earth dam called Omeantalala, meaning cold water. Here, villagers like these two young boys come to fetch water from the well, as it's the norm. The EIF intends on making this Amutenya Nuntumbo Dam 100 meter by 100 meter and 4 meters deep. The fence will keep the animals and children out, as a pump will be used to suck water into the tank for the villagers to use. There are around 127 homesteads all living from this dam. Ohapi Community Forest Chairperson Robert Dumeni thanks EIF for the lifeline thrown at them.
Katuna mea wana nande omea tuno ya ikenga o ikeri opa atarama momonda mamu odula siki ya ngenga puine matu ngomo mbola maro mombori anwa omalulu so vene ilonga yongengo yarongwa ngasingo inakulongwa ngeno uchondama te idurukula fururwa tikati itaramo meo genji msuditire nawa tashikala ehafo kwa me unene ponere shiwana sho tashikala shiwete kucha munkunda muya erunduruko ne humokomesho shashi turi mo ruhe polomea oike ha meke aturongifa pedo po katunali meamwe atuna kulongifa oike ha tarama ikenga oko durangeteya no mufima ikenge tafo mifima no membola ne wembola ma ongo malulu hanana alongifa ikina mwenye ngo tuete kucha ina mwenye tuete ikakala ya mangurukate inuna we fimbo keshe meange kwa kakala wana anu nasho hatu nunawa tete kucha keshe mo kwa manguruka. After
the break, we take a look at more water interventions by the EIF, which has brought harmony between the communities and the wildlife. We are still talking about water security, as the Environmental Investment Fund rehabilitated and retrofitted 16 boreholes in the Ukwaludi Conservancy at a cost of 4.3 million Namibian dollars. At its 14th meeting of board in October 2016, the Green Climate Fund approved the first community-based natural resource management enhanced direct access, proposed title Empower to Adapt, creating climate change resilient livelihoods through community-based natural resource management in Namibia. Here at the Omanyanga village, the dam is full and all this water was pumped by the solar system. The water tanks are also enclosed in a protective area and keeps the elephants out. Farmer Israel Fernando reveals that their whole lives has become so easier since the pumps were installed.
Njaba no ngontenya simbonia logo matango kavia pona na pombola maga shashi o vitenanda nutapo pikavia po havi hudile ko matemba bokui pombola moto bugo kumwefa toi nando.
The EIF's efforts are complemented by the Ministry of Environment and Tourism as well as other donors who have created an ingenious way to allow elephants to access these water holes. They can simply put the trunk in and get the water they need. Loveness Ndeiweda, the control warden for the northern regions, speak about the importance of having a harmonized environment between wildlife and human beings.
The difficult part is only on water provisions. We are trying to coexist with wild animals. As you know, Omusati is one of the regions with elephants, lots of elephants. Water situations is a problem. There are farmers who are farming with livestock. There are wild animals, specifically elephants, which require water. One elephant is drinking more than 200 liters, imagine. So for farmers now to provide waters to their livestock and to elephants, it's really a problem.
The weather implies that the emphasis should always be on finding ways of conserving the environment and wildlife for future generations.
Yeah, the priority is to provide waters, as I said earlier. Water provisions is one of the core activities for the Ministries of Environment and Tourism to provide waters to wildlife. We have to ensure that wild animals are having waters, they are existing for future generations. So therefore it's very important to ensure that our regions where the farmers are living, there is sufficient waters for livestock as well as for wild animals.
It was all smiles at Omakange as well as the community enjoyed the water from this place. The water hole provide water to the community and the school at no cost because they use solar.
Nandale mba kwetu waro araranga ndamba birongo byarwe bechema kuja kwetu mwanguna byo uninga nubutamba mena kuja omboro ini yo mahina ino udude o mahino ini o mahino ini itupuka no maoli iteka iteo miri umehi bila bihembye no ukara mithwano no yotanga hino uri otiweke po yeke yali amape unjwa mabe kuungura nambana ngatwa pe omeanga kauze katiti kutumuna ikemwe ulikai omeya mumehinga ade wa maepiti pale mahina ka epiti nuimbo na mara pamuna kuja munga hino mena kuja chirinda icha limondano no hambu umwembo ngaso hambu umwe nambana nguto chirino chititi chiwa twamu kuja hito ngomeya uliringu koku omeyango kokukara upupu yako chiwana ya chire nene.
Among other things, this episode should serve as a reminder that each time you drink clean water from your tap at your house, there are people who struggle heavily to get access. At Ompadi village in the Okankolo constituency, these kids were fetching water from a shallow well. They dug a hole, after which the water simmers through the soft sand and then fill these 25-litre containers. The boys told the Green Horizon team that the water will be used at their homesteads for drinking, cooking and washing after the dead has subsided to the bottom. Seeing these, we need to remember that water security underlines all dimensions of human health and well-being and is fundamental to both food and energy production. Efforts by the EIF in partnership with the Green Climate Fund to bring water security to remote villages are commendable.